everyone, and welcome to our deep dive. Today, we'll be discussing another interesting topic, so please stay tuned and learn.
Silent whisper stirs a story waiting to unfold. You've carried burdens, doubts like shadows heavy on your mind, but a strength you've always harbored now is rising to define.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've got quite a stack of sources here, all diving into something called the 4 disciplines of execution, or 4DX. And you know that feeling, right? You have this brilliant strategy, maybe some really important goals, but they don't seem to actually get done. They get planned, talked about, and then maybe not much changes. I think most of us have probably seen that happen. Maybe he's lived through it at work or even personally.
Absolutely. And these sources, they really try to pinpoint why that happens. They talk about this relentless force. They call it the whirlwind.
The whirlwind.
Yeah, it's just the sheer volume of urgent day-to-day stuff, the things you have to do just to keep the lights on.
Like emails piling up, fires to put out, constant meetings.
Exactly. Phone calls, unexpected problems. It just eats up all your time and energy. And those important strategic goals, the ones that aren't, screaming for attention today,
They get pushed aside.
they quietly get suffocated, is how one source puts it. Just kind of fade away because the whirlwind takes over.
It's that classic tyranny of the urgent, isn't it? The loud stuff drowns out the stuff that, actually matters long term. So, okay, how do you fight this whirlwind?
Well, that's precisely where this 4DX framework comes in. The sources explain it was developed by FranklinCovey people like Chris McChesney, Sean Covey, Jim Helling were key. And it's presented not just as like a nice idea, but a really practical, proven formula. It's specifically designed to help organizations, teams, even individuals execute on their most critical goals despite all that daily chaos.
Okay, got it. So, our mission then for this deep dive is to really pull out the core principles, the essential practices of 4DX from all this material. We want to give you a clear picture of how this framework actually helps people get those breakthrough results, even with the whirlwind blowing hard.
Right. We'll look at each discipline, see how they connect, how they work together.
Sounds good. We're ready to jump into the first one?
Let's do it. So, discipline 1, this is foundational. It's all about focus on the wildly important. The sources are really, really clear on this. You just can't achieve amazing results if you're trying to focus on dozens of things at once.
Yeah.
You have to get incredibly clear about the 1 or maybe 2 things that matter most. The absolute top priorities you must achieve. Everything else is secondary.
Which sounds simple, but boy, it's surprisingly hard to do in practice, isn't it?
Oh, definitely.
Everyone has ideas. Every project feels important. Saying no to perfectly good ideas feels wrong somehow.
It really does. And one source talks about the law of diminishing returns here. The more goals you try to juggle at the same time,
The less likely you are to achieve any of them well.
exactly, you spread yourself too thin. Trying to improve everything often means you end up improving nothing significantly. So discipline 1 forces you to make those tough choices. You identify your wildly important goals, or WIGs as they call them.
WIGs. Okay. Wildly important goals. So these are the big make or break targets that you absolutely have to move forward. But how do you define them so they're not just, vague wishes, like get better?
Right. The sources are very specific about the format. It has to be. From X to Y by when.
From X to Y by when.
That structure is crucial. It forces clarity. You need to know your starting line X, your finish line Y, and your deadline when. It makes the goal measurable, time-bound. So not just say, improve customer satisfaction.
Which is fuzzy.
Right. But something like increase our net promoter score from 45 to 60 by the end of Q4, or reduce production errors from 3% to 1% by June 30th.
Okay, from X to Y by when. That really nails it down, puts a clear target on the wall. And the sources also mention some non-negotiable rules around these WIGs too, don't they?
They do. 4 key rules. First, any given team should focus on no more than 1 or 2 WIGs at the same time, period.
Really forces that focus.
Absolutely. Second, the WIGs chosen by teams lower down in an organization must directly help achieve the WIGs higher up. They need to be contributing to winning the overall war, not just some isolated battle.
Makes sense. Alignment.
Third, while senior leaders might, veto WIGs that don't align, the teams themselves should ideally figure out how they'll achieve their part of the WIG. That builds ownership.
Yeah, engagement.
And fourth, like we said, Every single WIG must have that measurable from X to Y by when finish line. No ambiguity.
Okay, so let's say you've done that hard work. You've narrowed the focus. You've got your 1 or 2 really clear WIGs defined, like from X to Y by when. But just knowing the goal. Well, that doesn't make it happen, does it? This is where the execution part really starts to bite.
Exactly.
How do you actually start moving that big, important goal forward?
And that brings us straight to discipline 2. Act on the lead measures. This one is often described as the discipline of leverage. It's quite powerful. Think about it this way. You have lag measures, right? A lag measure tells you if you achieved the goal, but only after the fact, like your final sales figures for the quarter.
Or your weight when you step on the scale at the end of the week.
Precisely. It's history. You can't directly influence it at that point. It's already happened.
Right. The lag measure is the result, the outcome, the score at the end of the game.
Exactly. But a lead measure, that's different. Lead measures track the crucial activities that drive or predict the success of that lag measure. They tell you if you are likely to hit your goal down the road.
Oh, okay. So they're predictive.
Predictive and influenceable. That's key. The classic example one source uses is weight loss. The lag measure is the number on the scale, right?
Yep.
What are the lead measures? Well, things like calories consumed per day or number of workouts completed per week.
Things you can actually do something about this week.
Exactly. You can directly influence how many healthy meals you prepare or how many times you hit the gym. And those activities directly predict whether that number on the scale, the lag measure, is likely to go down.
Ah, I get it. So instead of just staring anxiously at the scale every morning, the lag measure, you focus your energy and effort on the controllable actions, the lead measures. Like prepping healthy lunches on Sunday or scheduling those workouts in your calendar. You're acting on the inputs that drive the output you want.
You've got it. Lead measures are the levers you pull. The sources really emphasize this. One of the biggest traps leaders fall into is fixating only on the lag measures because that's the ultimate result they want.
But that's like trying to steer a car by only looking in the rearview mirror.
Perfect analogy. Discipline 2 forces you to identify those specific daily or weekly actions, the lead measures that your team, or you personally, can directly control. And crucially, which ones are most likely to actually move the WIG.
And finding the right lead measures, that sounds like it takes some real thinking. It's not just tracking any activity.
Yeah, definitely not.
The sources talk about finding those like 80-20 activities, right? Few key actions that will have the biggest impact.
Yes. That's where a team really figures out, okay, if we consistently do this specific thing or improve this specific behavior, it's highly predictive of our WIG moving in the right direction.
So they have to be predictive and influenceable by the team.
Correct. And sometimes, cracking them takes a bit more effort initially. It might feel less direct than just looking at the final result. But focusing energy on these lead measures is where the real leverage lies. And interestingly, the sources note that acting on leads is also a huge boost for engagement.
Oh, so?
Because people see immediately that their actions, the things they do day to day, are actually moving a number that contributes to the big goal. They feel like they're making a difference.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got the WIG, the focus call. We've identified the key levers, the lead measures. What's next? How do you keep everyone energized and focused on those lead measures week after week, especially with the whirlwind always trying to creep back in?
That takes us right into discipline 3. Keep a compelling scoreboard. And the idea here, it really taps into basic human psychology. It's simple, but powerful. People just play differently when they're keeping score.
Oh, that's so true. Think about any game, sports, board games, video games. Knowing the score instantly changes the energy, right?
Yeah.
It brings focus, strategy.
A desire to win. Exactly. And the sources are really emphatic about this. The scoreboard cannot just be some complex report for the manager. It absolutely must be a player's scoreboard, designed for and by the team, the people actually doing the work to tell them if they're winning their game against the whirlwind, the game of achieving the WIG.
A player's scoreboard. I like that. So what makes it compelling for the players? What do the sources say are the key ingredients?
They highlight 4 essential characteristics. First, it's got to be simple, like super simple.
Easy to understand at a glance.
Instantly. The team should be able to look at it and know within seconds if they are winning or losing. It should only track the WIG and the key lead measures for that team, nothing else.
Okay, simple. What else?
Second, it must be visible, really visible, like posted prominently where everyone on the team sees it all the time. Out of sight is out of mind, right? Visibility drives accountability and keeps that WIG front and center.
Makes sense. So, simple, visible.
Third, it needs to show both the lead measures and the lag measure. This is critical because it helps the team see the connection, the cause and effect. They see, okay, when we do this, lead measure, that happens. Lag measure.
Connecting the actions to the results visually.
Precisely. And fourth, maybe the most critical point, you have to be able to tell at a glance if you are winning or losing. If it takes complex calculations or more than, say, 5 seconds to figure out if you're on track, it's not a compelling scoreboard, it's just data. It doesn't create that feeling of playing a winnable game.
Simple, visible, shows leads and lag. Tells you if you're winning instantly.
Got it. The sources seem to really stress that seeing those lead measures move because of their efforts and then seeing the lag measure follow. That's a massive motivator for teams. It's huge for engagement and morale. There's this intrinsic satisfaction that comes from seeing your direct impact, from seeing progress, from feeling like you're winning.
Yeah, you can see how people would get hooked on moving those numbers.
They really do. They feel effective. They feel like they have control over the outcome.
Okay, so focus on the WIG, act on the lead measures, track it all with a compelling scoreboard. We have the goal, the actions, and the feedback loop. What's the final piece? What's the engine that keeps this whole thing running consistently week in, week out, and stops the whirlwind from eventually just swallowing it all up again?
And that's discipline 4, create a cadence of accountability. The sources are really clear. This is where consistent execution truly lives or dies. It's all about establishing a regular, frequent rhythm, a cycle of accounting for what you did and planning what you'll do next to move the score.
And the main mechanism for this is the WIG session, right?
Yeah.
I saw that mentioned.
Exactly. The WIG session is described as the heartbeat of 40x execution. These are short, focused team meetings.
Oh, sure.
Ideally weekly and typically no more than 20 to 30 minutes long. The sources are super firm on this. Same time, same day, every single week. Like clockwork, they become sacred appointments.
Sacred, huh?
Yes. And here's the absolute crucial rule. The whirlwind is never allowed in the WIG session. No operational updates, no urgent side issues.
Wow.
You only discuss the WIG, the scoreboard, the lead measures, and the commitments made to move those lead measures. That's it.
Keeping the daily chaos out for just 20 minutes a week. That sounds like a serious discipline in itself.
It is, but it's essential to maintain focus.
So what happens in these sacred 20-30 minutes? What's the structure?
It's a really simple, action-oriented, 3-part agenda, account review plan.
Account review plan. Okay, first, account. Team members quickly report on the specific commitments they made last week. Did they do what they said they would do to impact the lead measures? Yes or no? Quick updates.
Okay, accountability for past actions. Second, review. They look at the scoreboard together. What worked? What didn't? What can we learn from this week's results, both the successes and the failures? It's a quick analysis.
Learning from the data.
And third, plan. This is where they clear any obstacles that are blocking progress. And, most importantly, each team member makes specific high-impact commitments for the coming week. What 1 or 2 things will I personally do this week to move the lead measures?
And those commitments, the sources talk about a particular kind of accountability here, right? It's not just about telling the boss what you did.
No, that's absolutely key. The real power, according to the sources, comes from making commitments to each other publicly within the team.
Peer-to-peer.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Each person commits to their peers. This week, I will make 5 coaching calls, or I will spend 2 hours refining that process. The idea is that people are far more likely to follow through on a promise made to their colleagues, people they respect and work with daily, than just reporting up to a manager or ticking a box in a system.
That resonates. There's definitely a different dynamic, a sort of social contract, when you make a promise directly to your teammates.
It creates this powerful sense of mutual responsibility.
Okay, so those are the 4 disciplines: focus, lead measures, scoreboard, accountability. The sources also seem to give a heads up that just knowing this stuff isn't enough. Implementing it, actually changing how people work, that takes time and persistence.
Oh, they definitely emphasize that. It's not a magic wand. They talk about stages of adoption, getting clear on the WIGs, launching the process, finding the rhythm, optimizing it, and then finally making it a true habit, part of the culture, changing human behavior. So that's arguably the toughest part of any real change initiative, right? But the argument is that by consistently applying these 4 disciplines together, that relentless focus on the wildly important, acting on the right lead measures, using that compelling scoreboard to engage everyone, and holding each other accountable in that regular cadence teams really can shift. They can move from just being constantly battered by the whirlwind to proactively, deliberately achieving those breakthrough goals. It's about, acting on your goals instead of letting the whirlwind just act on you.
That's a powerful shift. So bringing this back, what does this deep dive mean for you listening right now? Because while 40X was born in the business world, the sources are pretty quick to say these principles are incredibly relevant for personal goals too.
Absolutely. Think about those things in your life that feel wildly important, but keep getting lost in your personal whirlwind.
Yeah, like maybe finally getting consistent with exercise. Or writing that book you keep talking about, learning an instrument, spending focused quality time with family, saving for that big down payment.
All those important goals, they're rarely urgent on any given Tuesday, are they?
Nope. Never screaming as loudly as the inbox or the immediate deadline.
So they constantly lose out to the daily demands. But applying this 40X thinking personally, well, you could do that. You could bring that same intense focus to your personal WIG. Identify the 1 or 2 critical lead measures, the specific actions that will actually move the needle.
Like instead of just get fit, the lead measure might be complete 3 30-minute workouts this week.
Exactly. Something predictive and influenceable. Then create a simple scoreboard, maybe just a habit tracker app or a calendar where you cross off the days, or even a visible chart on your wall. Something simple and visual.
Keeping score for yourself.
And finally, build that cadence of accountability. Maybe it's a quick Sunday evening check-in with a friend who knows your goal, or maybe it's just 15 minutes you schedule in your own calendar each week, non-negotiable, to review your scoreboard and commit to your lead measures for the next week.
Yeah, making yourself accountable. It sounds doable when you break it down like that. The sources suggest, as you said, that one of the biggest challenges is just changing our own behavior. Actually doing things differently than we normally do, especially when things get busy.
To get results you haven't gotten before, you often have to do things you haven't done before, consistently.
Right. So based on everything we've explored from these 40X sources, maybe let's leave you with this thought to chew on.
If there's something wildly important you want to achieve in your life, something that requires you to change a behavior, what is one small behavior, just one, based on a lead measure you could identify for that personal WIG?
That you could commit to doing just this week. Something totally within your control that predicts success on that bigger goal. Just one small, consistent action, taken despite the whirlwind, to start moving the score on something that truly matters to you.
No more hiding in the corners, no more playing small. There's a purpose deeply calling. Hear it stand up tall. Feel the tremor deep inside your soul. A sleeping giant ready to take control. Awaken vision, let your spirit rise and ignite. Be the beacon, lead them forward into the light. The path ahead may twist and turn with challenges unseen, but every step you take now shows the leader you have been. For inspiration lives within you, a compass strong and true, to guide not just your own direction, but to light the way for a few. No more hiding in the corners, no more playing small. There's a purpose deeply calling. Hear it stand up tall. Feel the tremor deep inside your soul.